the version of you that exists today is capable of more than you think, and the version of you that exists tomorrow will be capable of even more. Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I'm joined as always by my partner in podcasting, who has a great evil laugh, Emily Grace Deal. Emily Grace Deal. First of all, I wish people could see the
You make me laugh right before we start recording.
Episodes moments are gold.
Every time.
I wish people could see those. Emily Grace Deal, what are we talking about today here on the Leader Lab?
I have a quote. I'm going to tell you that first.
All right.
You're like totally throwing me off now.
This is great. John, we're leaving this in.
We have a quote.
Okay, we have a quote.
Yes. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. But if you argue for your possibilities, you get to create them.
I like that.
It's pretty good.
That's really interesting to me. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you argue for your possibilities, you get to create them. I think I want to first talk about arguing for our limitations. I think we do that more often than we're aware, probably because we're overwhelmed, right? When we've got a lot happening, it's easy to just default to, well, I can't. Here's why. Let me tell you. That's an easy rhythm to get into, right? And okay, great. You say you can't, you won't. What's that quote? I think we've done an episode on it. It says the man who says he can surely can, and the one who says he can't surely can't.
Yeah.
It kind of applies to this as well, right? I think when we're overwhelmed, when we got too much happening, when we got work craziness, when we got young kids at home, when we got dogs who you find out have epilepsy, like all the different things, it's easy to be overwhelmed and argue for, well, I can't, and here's why.
Right.
And there's something to understanding when you do that, you're kind of staying trapped.
I think part of it too is like having the energy and knowing it's a priority to get yourself out of that.
Yes.
Because sometimes you only have the energy to repeat the story that you have in your head, which is sometimes that you have that limitation. And sometimes you have to realize that like exerting the energy to create something new will help you get out of that spot.
Yes. It is such an interesting kind of contrast because you're right. It is sometimes, I love what you said there. Sometimes you only have the energy to repeat the story in your head. Like you don't have the energy to think about something new. And we have a very simple framework to say, how do we start to argue for possibility? But ultimately it all requires a little bit of energy, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe first thing is recognizing when we don't necessarily have the energy. And it's funny how we're bringing this subject because I think often we're talking about intentionality and, hey, when you don't have capacity, back off. That's okay.
Right.
I think this is more talking about limitations of our own belief. What are we capable of? What can we do? That voice of self-doubt that so many of us share, that's so loud, that thing is constantly arguing for our limitations.
Right. And you're really, most of the time, that's convincing yourself.
Yes.
Like convincing yourself that it's not like what am I capable of? And then realizing that you're the one who's making that decision.
Yes.
And you may have the ability to do more. You just have to give yourself that.
You're rarely arguing this to other people. You are really, this is an internal fight.
Yeah.
To say, okay, voice of self-doubt says you have limits and you're going to just agree with it and go, yep, I can't. The reality is we probably can. We are capable of so much more than we understand.
And you got to just like stop finding comfort in that repetitive story.
Yes. And so it's rewriting the story and rewriting the story with possibility. And to do that, I think it takes three things. I think the first one is self-awareness. To even understand what state we're in, to even understand that we are trapped in arguing for our limitations.
Right, to hear what we're saying right now and not being like, well, that's utter like dumb ideas that you're just trying to spread to everyone.
It takes self-awareness to see it. The way it was funny, I was listening to a podcast this morning with Simon Sinek and Adam Grant and Brene Brown, and they were talking about the idea that in order to really be effective, you have to be able to think about how you think. You have to be able to notice how you're thinking about things and what your biases might be. And so this is kind of one of those things. You have to have the self-awareness to spot, I am agreeing with my voice of self-doubt. I am arguing for my limitations. You have to understand that to start with.
Right.
Second piece is curiosity. I think once we understand that we are in that and we decide we want to do something different, we got to be curious. What if? I love the question, what if? What if we go try a new thing? What if we are actually capable? We argue so hard for, I can't. what if we're successful?
Right. Well, I mean, I can't. It's kind of just like that failure mindset, right? It's if you're saying I can't, then you're stuck there. You probably can't.
But it takes some curiosity to say, what if? And then I think the third piece, and I'm not sure if this comes before curiosity, with curiosity, but you got to have some hope.
You got to mix it all throughout.
It really is. It's all kind of tied together. And I think once you have that self-awareness, you deploy curiosity, and right beside it, hope. Mm-hmm. Hope that better is possible. Hope that the version of you that exists today is capable of more than you think, and the version of you that exists tomorrow will be capable of even more. That if we are on a growth path, and I think if you're listening to this podcast even or watching our YouTube show, you are probably on a growth path, right? You are doing your best to develop.
You don't have to worry because you're already taking that step.
Exactly. You're trying to take in new ideas. You're trying to grow. You're trying to learn. And so when we can deploy that self-awareness, that curiosity, that hope, now we can start to argue for possibility.
Yeah.
And once we see possibility, now we say, okay, now how do I get there? What do I go do to create that?
Yeah.
That becomes a much more exciting mode because as we're thinking about it here, like the arguing for your limitations is really kind of survival mode. Well, I can just get through today just based on this. But possibility is getting out of that survival mode.
Yeah.
I love this quote. Leaders, let's talk next steps. Are you internally wrestling with this? Are you fighting this? Do you find yourself agreeing with your voice of self-doubt and arguing for your limitations? Because that's an argument you're going to win every time. And you get to keep the limitations. You're stuck with them. The reality is your voice of self-doubt is lying to you. It is trying to keep you safe. But in keeping you safe, it also keeps you small. It keeps you contained. You got to break out of that. And part of that is to begin to argue for possibility. What could you be capable of? And when you start to chase that, you start to create that. And this is all mindset. And so I would encourage you to really focus on arguing for possibility. Get up each day and say, what do I believe I am capable of? What do I believe I could be capable of tomorrow? And then make intentional choices to move in that direction. Craig Groeschel on his podcast, he says, when the leader gets better, everybody wins. And so if you're a leader and you're going on this journey, you're arguing for possibility, everyone you lead is going to win because you are on that journey.
Definitely.
Love this quote. If people want to send us other quotes, if they want to send us anything that they want us to dissect and dive into, where do they send that to?
To lab@forwardpartners.net.
Lab@forwardpartners.net. We are all over LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, posting content all the time about leadership development. Where do they find us on those platforms?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner. Thank you, Emily, for doing this. John, thank you for producing. Mr. Porchlight Productions himself, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. If you know leaders that could use this conversation, please share it with them. We want to increase that reach, increase that impact. And we will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.